Good boy. Welcome back. Thank you so much for popping in to watch my video. Today's video is actually going to be a book haul. I've picked up quite the little stack of books over the past couple weeks from various places, and I thought I would just go through some of them and show you guys what I have on my list to read in the near future, and just show you guys what I've picked up over the past month or so. So we'll just jump into it. The first book that I've picked up recently is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. For my birthday, I treated myself and gave myself $100 to spend at the bookstore, and this was one of the books I picked up. I also got The Mothers, which I've already read and loved. So I know everybody talks about how amazing this book is and how everybody needs to read it. I read The Mothers first just because it was a shorter book, and absolutely loved the writing, loved the story, loved the characters, and thought it was just beautiful and brilliantly written. So I'm so excited to read The Vanishing Half because everybody just talks about how amazing this book is, and I'm really excited. Next up is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This was actually my book of the month pick for last month, and I have a huge obsession with Greek mythology, and I studied it in 3rd grade, and then it was something that I carried on studying throughout high school, and our senior trip was actually to Greece and Italy. So I've just always loved the stories and everything to do with the Greek gods and goddesses. I just find really entertaining, and you know, having read the Iliad and the Odyssey and all those types of things in high school, I just love that storytelling. I love everything that Madeline Miller has written, so Song of Achilles and Circe have loved. I'm currently reading The Maidens right now, which has Greek mythology intertwined into it. And so this was one, when Book of the Month had it as a pick for last month, I immediately knew I was going to choose it. And I'm so excited to read it. I think this is the first book written by this author, but I want to keep adding stories with Greek mythology in them to my collection. And so I was really excited when this came in the mail. Next up is Lily and the Octopus by Stephen Rowley. This book has been on my Amazon list for years. So I finally gave in and got it. I actually got it, I had a gift card to Books A Million, and this was on clearance, and so I said, well, I think that's a sign, I have to get it. I'm a little nervous to read this book because it is about a man and his dog, that's Lily, and their bond, and I believe that Lily ends up getting cancer, and the main character and this dog are just attached at the hip, best friends, like I'm with my dog. And the main character and this dog have a bond that's just so strong, and they're attached at the hip, and they're each other's best friends. And as a dog lover and dog owner, I totally relate to that. Then from what I understand, the dog gets sick and things just unwind from there. So I'm excited to read it. I'm excited to read about their relationship, but I'm also nervous because I think it's gonna make me really sad. But I did pick it up. I wanna knock this one off my list because I've wanted to read it for so long, but I'm a little nervous. Next up on my list is Don't Look Now, which is a collection of short stories by Daphne du Maurier, which my dad actually picked up for me when I was home recently. And there's kind of a funny story behind this. My dad had given me a really beautiful copy of Rebecca a couple years ago, and kept telling me that I had to read it, and kept asking me, have you read Rebecca yet? And I just kept putting it off. I don't know why, I just didn't care to read it. I didn't really know what it was about. and I was like, it's an old book, so I don't know if I'm gonna like it, and I just kept putting it off. And then I kept seeing in people's videos, it was just brought up a lot that people were reading Rebecca, and I was like, okay, well, let me go ahead and give it a try. Instantly on my list of top 10 favorite books of all time. So I loved the writing. I thought the story was creepy, but it was also beautiful. It was written so well. I loved the characters, and just one of my favorite novels I've ever read. So then I started to do more research on Daphne du Maurier, and didn't know that she actually wrote the story The Birds, which Hitchcock ended up making his movie from. And so I was like, okay, I have to read more of her stuff. And so I had been looking at short story collections of hers online. And then when I went home for my trip, my dad and I went to the bookstore, and I saw that they had this, and he picked it up for me, and I'm so excited to read it. I'm so excited to read more of her work. And I love the fact that she writes creepy stories, but the way that she writes them is just so eloquent and beautiful. And this one has the birds in it, so I'm really excited to read that story. I can't decide if I want to save it for when it gets closer to the fall, or if I want to dig into it this summer. I have been wanting to do more short story collections, so I don't know, but either way, I'm really excited to get to reading this. Next on my list is The Whisper Man by Alex North. I have heard a lot of people talk about how creepy this book is, and it involves a serial killer and people whispering through people's windows when they're asleep at night. I mean, it just sounds creepy, but it sounds amazing. And so I also picked this up when I went for my little birthday trip to the bookstore, and was excited to get a hard copy of it, and I got it for $5, so that was a huge score, I thought. I tend to read more British mystery or just straight up true crime books, and I've never read something that was just fiction about a serial killer, so this sounds really good. And again, this is another one, I don't know if I want to wait until it's a little bit closer to fall to read it, but it's definitely going to be read this year. Going back to wanting to read short stories, I recently met up with one of my friends and asked her what her favorite short story collections were. And one thing she said to me was that you can't go wrong with Flannery O'Connor. So I was with another friend last weekend, and we went to a little thrift shop where they had a book section, and they had Flannery O'Connor, The Complete Stories. So I decided to pick that up. I've never read anything by Flannery O'Connor. I know a lot of people that have read her and love her writing, and I think it's a great way to start by reading some of her shorter pieces. So I'm really excited to go through this. Some of the titles of these stories just sound so good. I'm really excited to read A Good Man Is Hard to Find, and I really do enjoy Southern literature, and I believe that that's what most of her stories are. It says she was born in Georgia, so I would assume that a lot of it's Southern literature. But I wanted to explore that genre more, and so I'm really excited to dig into this one. It's pretty big. I mean, not that big, but it's bigger. So I think I'm gonna try to do a whole month where I just read short story collections, and this will be on that list for sure. The final book in my haul today is going to be Pachinko by Minjin Lee, and I've seen this book ever since I can remember. Like, even in high school, I remember seeing this book around, and it's a National Book Award finalist, and I recently got turned on to it by Noelle Gallagher. She said she was kind of in a reading slump, and a friend suggested this to her, and she absolutely loved it. So I was like, I've never read anything like this, and I'm just really excited. And this again was another thrifted find, so I was excited to find that. And I know it's more of historical fiction, but I think it switches between kind of a more modern time and then goes back in time and follows a family. So I'm really excited to read it, and I think it'll be cool to kind of mix it up and read a kind of story that I've never read before. That is it for my book haul today. Thank you so much again for watching. I would love to know if you guys have picked up any books recently, what they are, and where they're at on your reading list. And I will see you guys next time for another video.